hotels in Sharm El Sheikh, which was the best one? You've asked me, so let's do a comparison video between the 4 hotels I went to recently in Sharm El Sheikh. I have had more questions about which was my favourite, which was the best one, than any other question that I've had before on this channel, and rightly so. So if you're new here, hello, my name is Louise. It's lovely to see you. This channel, we talk about all things travel, all-inclusive breaks particularly. So after visiting Sharm El Sheikh numerous times over the last few years, I decided on this occasion to squeeze in as many hotels as I possibly could so that I could show you the gluten-free food options and all those other questions that you ask. Are the swimming pools heated? Is there a safe in the room? Is there a hairdryer? So let's dig in deep to all of those, and I've got here a little breakdown of comfort and facilities, beach, food, service, the welcome, entertainment, and then I added them all up at the end. I've marked them out of 10. So obviously this is just my opinion, but I am a bit of a hotel expert because that's where I started out with my career many years ago now. The hotels that I went to are the Coral Sea Waterworld, the Coral Sea Sensatori Imperial, it's also called sometimes, also known as the TUI Blue concept, the Royal Albatros Moderna or Pickalbatros Moderna, and the Rehana. That's the Rehana Resort, not the Rehana Royal. It's kind of the same hotel but different sides of the street. If you've seen all the other videos, which you can find all in the Egypt playlist, I've done room tours, I've done resort tours, and then I've done the food that I got there as well. Now food is particularly my thing because that is what I do. I'm a registered nutritionist and I look at the foods that people can eat at an all-inclusive resort when they are on health-related dietary requirements. So I'm a celiac myself, which is particularly why I go and look at such things. But let's start out with the comfort and facilities. Now I found Egypt as a whole, the beds are always comfortable. I've never slept in even like an Airbnb type of place. The beds are always comfortable. So I start out with the Coral Sea Waterworld. It's the favourite one that I know that I've been to many times before. Comfort and facilities, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I felt that the facilities were really good. Within the room, the beds were really comfy. The beds around the swimming pool area were also comfy, and this is what I've taken into account when I've scored these down. So facilities as in, like I had a jacuzzi room. If you haven't seen that, go and check that video out. If you stayed in a jacuzzi room, let me know in the comments. If you've been to Coral Sea Waterworld, what did you think? Let me know. And then we come to the Coral Sea Sensatori. I'm just going to call it that for easy's sake. The comfort in the rooms and around the beds and the facilities themselves, as in facilities I mean choices of restaurant you could go to, were absolutely outstanding. I have given that a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I couldn't think of any ways to try and improve on that at all. Okay, so we're going to come to Royal Albatros Moderna. Royal Albatros Moderna was a little bit different in places. So around the swimming pool area, I found that the beds were a little bit too close together and they weren't very comfy. If there were, some of the beds were different nearer the beach area, but if the ones that are around the main swimming pool, they had an almost waterproof sort of headrest thing, which was nice, but it wasn't as comfortable as the others. So I've given that one a 7 out of 10. Rehana, I've given a 6 out of 10 because the beds were still comfortable. But however, my bed sheets weren't changed in the entire 2 weeks that I was there. I didn't have any hot water in my room the entire 2 weeks that I was there. And sometimes the water that came out of the tap was a little bit brown. So I've only given that a 6 out of 10. But like I say, I will endorse that all of the beds in Egypt, and if this is important to you because you've got back issues, it's really important to have a comfy bed. So you will find that in every hotel in Egypt, I'm pretty sure. If you've been to one that it wasn't comfy, do let me know in the comments below. Okay, so now we come to the beach. This is an absolute pleasure to share this one because we all love a good beach. Now, the beaches in Sharm are not amazing. They're not like you're going to get in, say, Mexico, those long stretches of sandy beach where you can just walk for miles. You can walk for miles, but a lot of the time you have to step over stones if you want to get in and paddle. The Coral Sea Waterworld beach, I've given an 8 out of 10 because it's a pretty good beach. You can go in a little bit. There's sometimes spiky anemones. I would suggest that you wear water shoes as you're going into any of the seas there. But it does have a really good pier. The pier is really good and it goes out far, and there are lifeguards at the end of it, so you can go in and you can have a really good snorkel. Now, Coral Sea Sensatori, it's only marked 6 out of 10 here, and the reason is because it's the pier that goes out is a float floating one. You might have seen me trying to walk across it. I had problems where I was a bit unbalanced anyway, so that didn't help. And I found that the beach at Sea Sensatori was not my favourite. It was very stony at the beginning. There was a small stretch of beach that you could pay extra to go and sit on privately. That beach looked really good. And they also had some things in the sea that you could sit on, which was really, really nice. The beach itself was lovely and the beds on the beach were lovely. But the beach itself, I've only given that a 6 out of 10. If you love a really good hotel, Sea Sensatori is it. But if you also love a really good beach, probably not that one. The Royal Albatros Moderna, I've given an 8 out of 10. So this has also got a really good score because, again, got a really, really long pier that goes out one of the furthest that you can see along the area there of Nab. There's lifeguards on the end, all the way up as well. There's little sunbeds that you can go off and you can stay on the pier, which is amazing, especially if it's really, really hot because you get a bit more wind there. And where it's windy, obviously it keeps you a little bit cooler. So their beach is pretty good, an 8 out of 10. Now, surprisingly, the Rehana, thank goodness, this was the best bit of the entire place. I've given it a 9 out of 10. Let me tell you why. On the Rehana beach, there were sunbeds that were under the shade, lovely. They were spaced out nicely and they had nice cushions on them. It also did have a pier that did have a lifeguard on it. You could paddle in the Rehana. There was lots of people in the sea, which you won't see at any of those other three. I've never seen people particularly paddling for a long time. But the Rehana, you could. It wasn't stony. You could walk out. There weren't spiky anemones and it was a lovely little stretch of beach. It was the best thing about the hotel by far, and I'm really pleased that I was able to say something positive about it. What was not so good is the bar. The bar service was a bit naff and the choice of drinks also was terrible. All I could get there, because I like to eat things that are sugar-free if I possibly can, they didn't even have any Diet Coke. So that was terrible and the service of the staff wasn't great, but the beach itself has got a 9 out of 10. When it comes to the food, it hurts me a little bit to say this, and I really hope that they will up their game really soon, but the Coral Sea Water World, the food in Egypt generally can be quite mundane, it can be quite meh. It's not the best thing ever. Now, when I went to Thailand last year, the food was exquisite. It was absolutely insane. Food in Egypt, it isn't its most selling point, but if you're going there, if you follow this channel because you have dietary requirements, I think that you'll find, you're not going to have major problems there in trying to get something to eat, but it might not be always your number one choice. So the food at Coral Sea Water World, I felt it let itself down on this last trip with me. Previously, it's been better. I'm not the only person saying this. I've got a Facebook group for Coral Sea Water World, which you're welcome to join. I'll leave the links below. And in that, you will find, actually, while I'm mentioning links below, all of these hotels will be linked below. If you go ahead and book through there, you're really supporting the channel. I would really appreciate it. Go and have a little look. You can also just find out more information there without having to book. For the moment, it's got a 6 out of 10. Now we come to the Coral Sea Sensatori. The food was exquisite. I have never had food like it in Egypt. The food was tasty. There was a massive choice for everybody. Loads of stuff for gluten-free, and they were the way they served it, the fact that you could get gluten-free pizzas even, and gluten-free, there was in the coffee shop, there's a whole gluten-free section, and they kept it separate. It wasn't going to be cross-contaminated. There's nothing I can think of where I can improve the food at Coral Sea Sensatori. Breakfast was amazing. You could even get your little syrups to go in your coffee, freshly squeezed orange juice. I give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for the food at Coral Sea Sensatori. The Royal Albatros Moderna, the food was okay. It was slightly better than Coral Sea Water World. The food in the a la carte was really, really nice. I enjoyed that, and they did make a lot of effort to try and get me what I needed for gluten-free desserts and things. However, it only hit a 7 out of 10. Unfortunately, not so good. Now the Rehana, I'm so sorry to say, the food was quite inedible. I've only given it a 4 out of 10. I can't think of any way to bring that score up. Sometimes it looked okay, it looked quite nice. There was people doing big carveries outside, not ideal. I saw people handling raw chicken and then handling cooked chicken to dish it up on people's plates. Service, Coral Sea Water World always makes you feel like you're coming home. The service there, I've given an 8 out of 10. They can't do enough for you. If you've never been to Egypt before, it does take a little bit of time to get used to it because they are very, very giving. However, as good as that was at Coral Sea Water World, I've had to give a 10 out of 10 to the Coral Sea Sensatori. The service was impeccable. I do think they could improve slightly with the reception area, but we'll come to that in a minute because that's more about the welcome. But the service itself, as in restaurants and room service, a 10 out of 10. The Moderna, I'm giving that a 9 out of 10 because again, the service was really, really good. They remembered your drinks every time you went to the bar and they were really great. So that's got a 9 out of 10. The Rehana here is bummed out once again. The service was awful. The staff didn't seem to really care very much. And almost to the point that if you asked for something, they'd have a little giggle at you. It really wasn't good. They only scored a 4 out of 10. So let's talk about the welcome. When you arrive at a hotel, you know that moment when you go to check in and you see somebody behind the desk. Like, what is it like? What's the welcome like there? Now, I've given the Coral Sea Water World a 7 out of 10 because when you go there, I feel this is quite regular in Egypt. The reception staff should be a little bit more smiley. They should be a little bit more giving. You know, you give over your passport, you just arrived, you're a bit tired when you arrive there. I think all of Egypt could do with being a little bit, hi, it's lovely to have you here, thank you very much. Whereas they ask questions that are a little bit, like they'll put a they'll look to see if you've been there before. They'll put a wristband on you and they'll say, welcome back, you know, which is a really lovely touch and I like it. But it's also a little bit predictable. Do they actually remember you? Sometimes they will, sometimes they don't. If you've been lots of times, they will remember you and the welcome tends to be very, very good. So I've given that a 7 out of 10. I think the reception staff need to work on their customer service skills slightly more. And it's the same at the Coral Sea Sensatori. I found that the staff on the reception desk seemed a little bit unwelcoming, so it's only got a 7 out of 10. The Royal Albatros Moderna, let's talk about that. Now, if you saw the vlog, I did have a slight issue as I was trying to get to the reception because I had to cut through the hotel because I was walking from the beach and I was stopped by the security. I'm not going to mark that down as a negative thing because I actually think it was good. The security is very tight in Egypt anyway, but I was escorted to the reception and the security man was a little bit scowly at me, a bit like this. When I got to reception, the reception staff kind of like waved him off and had a little giggle about it, not at me. So that was a really good welcome. And then they called over somebody called Luca. If you're watching, hello Luca. Luca was amazing, is amazing. He's been there a lot of years. If you book directly with booking.com, there'll be a link down there if you want to do that. You can go and see Luca and he will look after you specifically. He's a specific like a hospitality manager for people that have come through booking.com. You get a different wristband and you get gold star treatment. I don't know why you get more there than you do if you're with TUI, but I felt my welcome was a 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, at the Rehana, once again, they've got a 4 out of 10. Now, there was a man that took my suitcases to my room. He was outstanding. He was a great member of staff. He was very jolly, very much got the job done. But other than him, it's a 4 out of 10. Entertainment. Now, entertainment in Egypt doesn't tend to be brilliant. You're not going to go there and get what you're going to get in a 5-star Turkey resort, for example, or even some of the Mexico places, which are, and not just that, there's loads of places that have got like cruise ship entertainment. You're probably not going to get that in Egypt. Lots of reasons why, largely as well, some of it's to do with English people trying to get a passport over there since we've, not a passport, trying to get a visa over there since we've gone through Brexit, but they do their best with the entertainment. Now, we do have some animation teams over there who are really good fun and they will look after your children, make sure there's lots of fun going on. And I think they do really well with that. So the entertainment at Coral Sea Water World, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because the animation team do bring it up, but the actual entertainment is not that great. I would recommend if you go to the lobby bar, you can have a drink there and you can get some lovely entertainment. Like sometimes there's a pianist there or sometimes there'll be somebody playing some strings. Now at the Coral Sea Sensatori, however, it was a totally different kettle of fish. Even though I went early December when it's not going to be the most height of the season, there was always some really nice, whether that be a musician, a live musician to listen to. They did also still do the things like the aqua aerobics type of stuff and all of that. So that was really good. I've given them a 9 out of 10. So the Moderna, I've given a 6 out of 10 because, and the animation team, when they did the balloon thing, you know, and the bubbles, you know, the foam party, that was pretty cool. The Rehana, they tried really flipping hard there. I've given them a 7 out of 10 because even though it wasn't designed for English tourists, so I couldn't really understand a lot of the music or what was being said, there was a lot of fun happening there. It was quite loud and it was quite rocky. It really depends on what your vibe is, but they tried really hard, so they got a 7 out of 10. So that brings me to the final scores. Coral Sea Waterworld have 45. Coral Sea Sensatori have 49. The Moderna has 47 and the Rehana has 34. So hands down, the winners were Coral Sea Sensatori with 49. Second place, Moderna. Third place, Coral Sea Waterworld, and really lagging behind is the Rehana. I'm so sorry to say that about Coral Sea Waterworld because it really is my favourite. I don't know which I'd choose to go back to. Personally, I'd quite like to do a week in Coral Sea Waterworld and a week in Coral Sea Sensatori. But again, like I say, the welcome that I had from the Moderna was just outstanding, and their coffee shop was amazing. So choose for yourself which one you'd prefer to go to, and I hope that has helped you. Don't forget to check out the links below and make sure that you've subscribed, ready for the next video, which will be answering some more of your questions, and I hope it really helps you to plan your trip to Egypt. Whether that's for a holiday or whether that's for something else, then do let me know in the comments how you've got on. All right, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye for now. I love that. Look, this jacuzzi bath. The aircon by the bed. Oh my God. Lovely. Thank you very much. La la, look at that.